We, the Generation X, are experiencing significant changes around us and adapting to technological advancements, embracing digital tools in various fields, from finance, making lists, and of course, not to miss photography. We have been dragged into this world of a myriad of pictures from the era of that limited camera roll that we used to have. Always we're in a dilemma on how to retain and save the pictures or to delete them. And then once you delete them, they're gone forever. Our phones cannot handle the weight of our memories. Our guest on today's show has a solution for all of us and a boon for the technologically challenged as well, with easy breezy solutions and steps to save your precious memories. Hello, welcome to Midlife Identity. I am Monica. Midlife Identity is a podcast where we speak about various concerns in midlife. It is about rebuilding and reinventing ourselves and our lives. The mission of Midlife Identity is to empower and build a legacy. Our guest for today's show is Angela Andrieux. She is a photographer, photography coach, experienced broadcaster, writer, and a content creator. She is a product evangelist for Mylio Photos, the free photo management and storage app on a mission to change the way the world remembers via cutting edge technology that allows users to include essential information such as the photo's date, tagging people, and geolocations. So, welcome, Angela, to our show. It's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, wow. So I was just seeing photography coach, and now the Mylio app. How did this whole journey start? Can you just tell us all about your journey about photography?
Sure. So, as a fellow Gen X, we all started out with film cameras, and I am one of the younger Gen X. But I had film cameras as a kid. I love taking pictures, but photography was expensive, like processing film and all of that.
Hmm.
And I just didn't have the money for it. So I would take some pictures here and there. So I do have some older pictures in my library, but it really wasn't until digital became mainstream that I actually got into photography.
Mhm.
I started dabbling with it, had a lot of fun. My husband surprised me with my first DSLR about a year before we moved to Europe. So my husband is now retired Navy, US Navy. And
Okay.
we've had the privilege of living in Sicily for 4 years, the little island off the tip of the boot of Italy. And that is where I really, truly fell in love with photography, because how can you not live someplace so beautiful and not want to capture it? So I took my camera, I actually learned how to use it and, understood what, started to understand what an aperture was and the ISO and shutter speeds and how those things work together to capture light and capture moments. And by the time we moved back to the States, I decided to hang up my shingle. I am now a photographer.
Wow.
And that has been that's kind of like the short version of the journey. And part of going through all of this, I was writing a blog about my travels and my experiences, including the photos I was taking. And that morphed into helping educate other photographers, because I love creative post processing and doing those types of things on the computer. So I started teaching people via my blog how to do those things. Fast forward a few more years, I got noticed by some of the software companies that I was talking about and got hired. And now today I'm working for a company called Mylio Photos, and we make an application that helps people organize their lifetime of memories. So whether it's the digital pictures you're taking today or bringing in scans of those older pictures that you took yourself, or perhaps even your parents or your grandparents took, having those all in one library that your family can enjoy is something that we do, and that I think is just really, really important.
Wow. And Sicily, as you say, a very scenic place. I'm sure it must have enamored you completely to ignite that passion to actually capture those beautiful scenarios and the scenes and the beauty out there. And I'm sure how much ever pictures you take, to get justice of that scenic beauty is very challenging. And you did it. And you had people approaching you. I think that's commendable. because when and you're teaching people after learning yourself. So but then how much is that passion, like what really drove you, what happened? Because when you say, looking, you want to capture it, and then you picked up everything and you learned it. So how did you manage to do all that? Like what did you actually, because I've seen we all get excited, we want to do a lot of things, right? But then to get
Mhm.
actually jumping into it and then teaching people, tell us more. It sounds very exciting.
So, when you find something that really captivates you, it's really easy to put in the time. So, when I was overseas, podcasts were still very new, but I started listening to some podcasts
Hmm.
and they were photography driven. Of course, I followed a lot of blogs. Blogging was huge back in the day.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
I read and absorbed everything I could. So, there's, I think it was Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote in one of his books that you have to put in 10,000 hours to become an expert at something.
Yes.
And that's a lot easier if it's something that you're passionate about. It's a lot harder if it's not something that captivates you. And so you just start absorbing everything you can, and all of your free time, that's kind of what you're doing because you love it. And that's really what got me. I had so much fun taking my camera around places in Italy and all over Europe and making pictures. And as I was doing that, looking at my pictures, looking at pictures that some of my friends and some of these other people that I was following were doing, and going, okay, they're doing it better. How can I do that? How can I learn? How can I up level? And so, you know, fast forward even further, I come back to the States. I start going to in person workshops. I join camera clubs. I do all sorts of things because that's what I'm passionate about. And it just raises my level. And then as I learned, I shared what I was learning. So that transitioned into the photography coaching. And, it's just a big snowball, very organic bit of growth for me over the last, 15, 20 years.
I mean, that is, exactly when you say there's the passion, what you said, and that fire to learn more. Keep learning, keep honing that skill. So it is something that once you dive into, and you just have to learn how to go another 10 meters down and another 18 meters lower and lower, and manage to be the best diver. It's that kind of addiction, I think, which that
Yeah,
passion, that addiction, which just draws you into it so much more, that when you said that you came in and you took up more classes and you did a lot more, and that people, you were actually noticed the kind of work that you were doing. But what is it that you were trying to tell through these pictures?
I was trying to share my experience and just share the world through my eyes. So when I
Okay.
take a picture, I'm not necessarily a documentary photographer. So I'm not someone who feels like I have to preserve the scene exactly as it is. I am more of a photographic artist in that I will take a scene and process it and make that scene into what my imagination sees. Not necessarily something otherworldly or fake, but it might be sort of a, rose-colored glasses version of whatever that place is. So, I have no problem taking out bits of trash, little distractions, things like that. But I'm not adding in anything, AI crazy. That's not really my style
I'm
either.
sure.
But it's mostly trying to show uh, just the most positive view of the world and kind of my happiest way of seeing it. And also capturing details that a lot of people miss. So that's one thing as a photographer that has really trained me is you stop and you notice things because you've trained yourself to look at those little details and you see things a little bit differently. And when you can capture that with the camera and then somebody comes to you and be like, wow, I've walked past that place every day for the last 30 years. I never noticed that. That to me is very, very rewarding. Or never looked at it from that point of view. That's really fun. And that's what I like to show through my photography.
So, in the true sense, it's that lens which we see from, right? So, they say the
Exactly.
perspectives and the lens, we each have our own lens. So, when we see it
Hmm.
through your eye as well as your photographic lens, it's what you see, what you perceive, and what you click. Yes, as you rightly said, many
Absolutely.
of us, walking that same flower, one would see it differently, and how you would see it is differently. The angle would be maybe different. Maybe, of course, you're the photographer, you would know better, but from my imagination and my thoughts, what I can collect from your words is that even a simple flower can look so different from different angles and maybe from different perspectives. Maybe you spotted that bee on the flower, or you just spotted that tiny dot on the flower, or maybe a bud coming from somewhere, which a normal person would just see the flower as a flower. Am I right?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
So I can be out with other photographers. For example, my mom also is a photographer and one of my aunts is a
Uh-huh.
photographer. And the three of us can go out with our cameras and we can be in the exact same place and we capture such different views. Like they might have similarities because obviously it's the same
Yes.
place, but we each see the world so differently. And that's what I love about hanging out with other photographers as well. Some people might say, oh, I don't want to be standing next to another photographer. They're in kind of competition.
Hmm.
For me, it's like I see the world so uniquely. I'm not, intimidated by having another photographer next to me. I love seeing what they come up with. And sometimes that's inspirational to me and go, wow, I didn't see that. And I love that.
Wow. And actually, see, that is when it is, when you embrace everything around you. I mean, you don't have that sense of competition, whereas you have a sense of learning. As you rightly just
Yes.
said, that, maybe how come I didn't see it? And then again, your lens, your perspective changes. And then you see it through the other side's perspective. And then again, maybe you may get even 10 steps ahead of what that person has done. So it's all about embracing and learnings all the time. So okay, I mean, this is very
Absolutely.
interesting, because for me, or a layman, or me, I could talk about myself, and I think generally for us it is, photography is okay, clicking a picture, capturing a particular moment, yes, but when you talk about looking into the details, so you have to be so present at that moment to be able to see that, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, that ripple of the water, probably, or the rays of the sun. Because whenever we've gone on a vacation or somewhere, wherever it is scenic, and when I see the sun, I do try to capture. Now, my picture capturing is just on the cell nowadays. That's what we are doing. It's a general picture, but it's very satisfying. So, I'm just trying to imagine and go to that space from where you capture. you know I'm just putting it together, like, okay, me capturing, it's like, okay, I saw the sun, I saw the rays. Maybe I cannot capture each and every ray looking into it from your lens. For me, the rays are coming onto the water, or if I just see the sun rays on the sky, or maybe I catch a rainbow if I'm lucky. So it's like wow moment. What has been
Hmm.
that special wow moment for you? Because I get so excited and happy when I even manage the sun, I manage the rays, or manage the ripple in the water, or something like that, or the bright green tree and the green looks too green and nice for me. So that's exciting. So what is that moment which really touched your heart, or you just felt that wow, that beautiful moment, or that, I could say, that transcendental moment? Do you have any such moments with your photography?
Had many. I've been fortunate. I've had many. And it's, every place I go, every place that I photograph, I really hope to have a moment like that because those are usually the pictures when I have that moment and I'm taking the picture, I know without even looking at it, I was like, I just captured something special. One that I can think of was it was many, many years ago. I was in Venice, Italy. And I don't remember what my husband was doing. I think he was like buying a sweatshirt. He was cold or something. And so I just took my camera and I went and sat on the edge of the canal. And there's all these gondolas just kind of bobbing. And I'm looking out. And I set my camera actually on my feet. So I was sitting cross legged. I set my camera on my feet. And I wanted to get that really low perspective. And I wanted to do a longer shutter so you could see some of that movement. And as I was sitting there, that's one of those moments where it was towards sunset. So the light was a little lower. It was really beautiful. And I just I knew that that was going to be a special picture. And it's still one of my favorites today. I've had other moments like that I've just been, very fortunate that I've been able to capture something really spectacular. But that's one that stands out at me. And it's, you know, different places hit you in different ways. And, I try to find the beauty in everything.
Yes, absolutely. That's so beautiful. Like when you just, were talking about this, I could actually visualize, how you're sitting there, and it's like low lighting, as you said. It's the end of the day, evening, late evening. It must be so beautiful. So what do you feel at that time? I have to know that.
For me, it's a sense of, I'm centered, I'm calm, I'm feeling creative and inspired. And sitting someplace like that on the edge of the canal in Venice,
Hmm.
you're just in awe of what's around you. It's just so incredibly beautiful. It's not the kind of thing that I see in my day to day. And you just sit there and you're just going, wow, I can't believe I'm here. I
Wow.
can't believe I'm here in this moment. And then trying to capture that, whether you're doing with film or on your digital sensor or whatever, it's just part of the creative process for me.
I'm sure. I mean, it feels really, really, you feel one with yourself, right? One with the universe. You feel, as you said, centered. And it feels that very beautiful moments where you can see the beauty of the nature around you. You can see the beauty that is, we are having it all around us. And sadly, many of us cannot even see it, right? Many of us
It
cannot.
is. It's really a shame. People get so busy and they're, going about their daily lives. It's kind of a cliche thing to say to stop and smell the roses, but it's really something that should be considered, because if you just take a moment to pause and appreciate the world around you, there's a lot of good to be had, even if you're in the middle of a not great moment. Just to look around and go, okay, the sun is shining. There's some pretty clouds in the sky. There's a pretty flower over there. And just being like, okay, this here is good.
Yes, I know. I mean, I really, as you said, I'm sure the viewers and the listeners would have this something to take from our podcast that, okay, please stop, smell the roses, look at the beautiful sky, look at the clouds, appreciate the beauty. Don't miss out on that beauty. So when you say, like people, most, of us or people around us, they cannot see this beauty, or, they miss out on it because we're getting busy. It's, everybody's so preoccupied and occupied that you just miss out on all of this because you just have the to-do list, next, next, next. So that is the biggest challenge to get out of. So what is the challenge that you must have faced when you were actually coaching people to make them, bring them into the present, bring them to make them feel, okay, these are the nuances, or this is something, like how did you go about it and what were your challenges?
So it's just, mostly about getting people to slow down and be thoughtful in whatever process it is they're trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
So when I'm coaching people, the things that I usually coach on are photography post processing. So how to get their creative vision on the screen. So they might take a picture, they like the picture, but there's aspects of it they want to improve or change or emphasize. And how can they use software to do that? So slowing down and considering those things before you just start moving sliders. I think that's one of those things. Another thing I coach on is managing your workflow. So manage when you bring your pictures into your computer. What do you do? How are you storing them? How are you organizing them? And how are you making sure that they're protected and backed up? Again, being thoughtful about that process, just slow down and consider those steps, because skipping some of those things is what can lead to issues down the road. And that's what I really try to help people avoid.
Yeah, but then do you use some methodology or something to be able to bring them into the present, make them more aware? Or, see, there is one technical part, definitely, that, that definitely you are looking into. But I'm very curious about, see, like I'll tell you, okay, now as we are speaking, right? So we both are very much present, we are listening to each other, we are, taking out from words from there. So similarly, when you're teaching photography, so the technical part is there, but then there's another side where people tend to drift off, or maybe, not get the essence. So how do you
Mhm.
put in that essence into your students?
A lot of times it's just, taking it slow and sometimes repetition.
Okay.
I can typically see with my customers and my clients, where when especially we're talking something technical and maybe they're not a super technical person, people start to kind of glaze over. And I try to keep an eye out for that, whether it's just I can see their mind has gotten to the point where it's like I can't really take anymore. And that's where I kind of step back and either try to reemphasize something we've already talked about, or maybe try to explain something a little bit easier or more plainly. One of the things that I think, not to, I don't know, it sounds braggy, but I'm pretty good at is helping translate technical things into everyday terminology and making those types of things approachable. So if I need to step back and kind of reframe something for somebody because I can see they're starting to hit that point of, saturation, that's something I try to pay close attention to, because if I overwhelm somebody with information, they're going to walk away and feel frustrated and probably not follow through on anything and feel like they didn't get anything out of the session. Whereas I want them to walk away going, I can do this. I understand now. I know what my next steps are.
Wow. But then have you ever spotted a person like, okay, wow, this person can actually do something great with photography, or this person is just dabbling, or is just like, is passionate? Have you ever been able to spot any of these amongst your clients and customers and everyone, students?
Yeah, I mean, I've coached a very wide variety of people.
Okay.
I would say the most of the people that I've coached are serious enthusiasts. So they're people who are very into photography. They may or may not be making some money from it. But I've had people who are more just starting out. I had one client, this was a couple of years ago now, and he was a real estate agent and he wanted to get into real estate photography. So he was semi retiring and was wanting to transition. And he hadn't done much with photography other than, with his cell phone. So he was kind of starting from scratch. So he was a very eager learner, but he had a very business purpose. And some people are in it because they love to make beautiful imagery. And then other people want to make beautiful imagery than to sell as, wall art, things like that. So I've had different people at different stages of their interest in photography. And I just try to meet them where they're at and help them accomplish whatever their goals are. And that's really the most fulfilling thing for me.
Wow. I mean, this is actually, so beautifully you've put it, because I think a true teacher, a trainer, a true teacher is the one who can actually just help them accomplish their goals from wherever they are beginning. It's about the person. It's not about your goal. Okay, this is what I teach and you have to reach there, but it is about their goal, which is
Exactly.
kept in mind, which is very, very beautifully. I think I'll come and learn photography very soon from you. I don't even know whether
I would love that.
I don't even know whether I'm passionate about it. I love photography. I really don't know that. But speaking about photography today, I suddenly ignited something within me that yes, I think I should know more about photography, because yes, I have to admit, and yes, whoever's listening, my friends and family especially. So whenever we go out or anywhere, and nowadays, we just use the cell for our pictures. And if they ask me to
Mhm.
click a picture, everybody's so hesitant, so scared to ask me for a picture, because my focus is like, okay, it doesn't come out right, and nobody's really happy with the picture I've taken, and to please me, or they just want to rub it off, like they say, yeah, theek hai, it's okay. And I know it's not okay. I'm not the chosen one for any of the pictures, that's for sure. And you would be wondering that I'm actually ready now, I have to learn photography. But that's so I'm sure all my listeners, relatives, friends, whoever, whose pictures I've taken, will really be having a great laugh when they're going to hear this podcast. Okay.
So just a couple of tips for you and anybody else who's listening. If you're photographing your friends, your family, you're out doing something fun. I use an iPhone, so I'm going to use that as an example.
Mm.
Switch it to the portrait mode,
Okay.
and that gives you like a nice shallow depth of field. Step back a little further, and that throws the background kind of out of focus and lets you really focus on the person.
Okay.
And then for most people, try to bring the camera up a little bit, shoot from a little bit of a higher angle. It's more flattering for most people. And then I think you're going to end up with a better picture.
Wow. Great. So before this podcast goes live, I'm going to use these tips, the best pictures, and then I'm definitely going to get back to you that yes, I'm better with my pictures. So I learned something from today's podcast. This is
Awesome.
great. This is great. So yeah, now when you're talking about photographs, and so when we have so many pictures you click, you have so many images, you have a whole library with you, right? But then how do we end up storing all of these pictures? How do we take care of these pictures? Because our phones cannot support it after some point, we just end up deleting. We want to delete, our phones cannot take it, and you don't want to delete these precious pictures as well. They are your memories, and you're left with no choice, and then you have to make a choice between a picture or a B picture. Then sometimes you think, okay, maybe I'll look into it later. So you can't have, or sometimes you're so irritable, sorry, but that's a fact. Delete, 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 finish, it's over. But you lose out on so much of your memories, right, which you wanted to preserve. So what and how do we go about all of that?
So I work for a company called Mylio. We make an application called Mylio Photos. What this program does, it runs on your phones, it runs on your computers. It's cross-platform and it talks to each other, so you can have like an iPhone and a Windows computer and an Android tablet and be able to access all of your pictures from all of your devices. What it does is you go ahead and load that onto your phone if that's your main place for taking pictures, and it will import your pictures directly from your camera roll or media library. And if you have an external drive hooked up to your computer and you have Mylio installed on your computer, you can have all those pictures then backed up to that external drive. And you can even have a couple of external drives if you want to have like one is kind of your primary and one is your backup. It can do that replication automatically for you. So it gives you a way to get your pictures off of your phone and into a location where you can back them up. If you want to be even a little bit more safe, you can use a cloud service with it. Cloud is not required to use with Mylio. So whether it's for cost or privacy or whatever, Mylio can be cloud independent. Your devices talk directly to each other. But if you want to put the cloud into the mix and have, let's say, an offsite backup, you can certainly do that. It can encrypt it, and it's very privacy centric. And the thing that I really love about Mylio Photos is that you're not locked into proprietary software. So when you use Mylio Photos to import your pictures and put them on that hard drive, you can find them there in the file system. So if you choose not to use our software in the future, everything is there in the folders that you create and is organized. So you can take those pictures and take them anywhere you want. Also, if you use like our face tagging, which we have amazing facial recognition and face tagging, or you add other details like captions and descriptions, it's saved in an industry standard format. And that goes with your picture. And again, it's not locked into our software. Whereas if you go into a lot of times into Google Photos or Apple Photos, you can add some of that information there. But if you try to take that information and take that picture somewhere else, you might lose that information you added because it's all in their proprietary format. Ours is industry standard and is in a format that's accessible by just about every application out there. So we try to make sure things are very open, very privacy centered, and give you easy tools to keep your stuff backed up and safe.
So, but you think all of us can use this application easily because technology can get challenging for us at times. Yes, because if we talk about the Gen X and all of us a little bit get overwhelmed when it comes to technology, and okay, I have to go to three these steps, these processes, and how would I manage it, and how are we going to do it? So is it an easy to use, or how does this work actually?
So it's a big application. I'm not going to lie and tell you that it's like the easiest thing in the world, but we do our best to make it as simple as possible. And one of the things we've recently started doing is when you get a subscription, you actually get a one-on-one consultation with one of our experts to help you get started. So that person's going to, ask you a few questions, figure out what your goals are. But based on that, they're going to help you install the software. They're going to help you do the first import to get your media into the library and give you a general walkthrough of here's how everything works. And then from there, we've got amazing educational opportunities. We have live events that people can drop into and ask questions. I run those 3 times a week, and people can drop in and just ask questions, whatever they want to know. We have an amazing community where, again, if they can't get on one of the live shows, they can come and just type in their question. We've got an amazing support team. So if there's like a technical issue, our support team is one of the best I have ever encountered. They're amazing. And then we have a full manual and other documentation. Basically, we do everything we can because we know it's a big program and it has a lot of capabilities to focus in on what you're trying to accomplish and help you get there.
Okay. So, I mean, it's like hand holding, right? I mean, if you are
Yes.
lost and you don't know what to do whenever we feel, a little overwhelmed, probably, or, you're stuck somewhere, because there are times where you tend to get stuck. So, I think, it's like a hand holding. You're at it to help anyone, and, like, we have the support system. I think that is what really matters, because, when you when we go through technology, anything that we are using, any app, you tend to get stuck, though there may be easy steps, but you don't know what's the next step. So if
Right.
there's a kind of support system you're speaking about, I'm sure that's really, really helpful, easy access, and then that gets very comfortable to be able to use your photographs, or do use the application probably. So but now when you talk about storing all of these photographs, and but now if we have, like, I have got my wedding albums, they're those huge albums, we used to have it. So we
Hmm.
are going back to 80s, and we used to have those huge albums and each photograph. So how do you so it takes a lot of space, like we've just put it up, obviously that's how it goes.
Hmm.
Either it goes into wherever you store your items and it's collected there. And of course the photographs tend to fade over the years, right? So
Right.
how do we look after these photographs, and how do we keep them as memories?
So a lot of people are digitizing these pictures,
Okay.
and there's several ways to go about doing that. You can do it yourself. You can get a good scanner, scan them, or you can hire it out to a company that specializes it. Um, I kind of like to ask people, do you have more time or do you have more money? If you have more time, it can be really worth it to get a good scanner and go through that process yourself. It's a lot of fun, but it is time consuming,
Yeah.
and much more so than I think most people expect.
Right.
If you've got a little bit more money than you do time, hiring it out to a reputable company, I usually like to recommend working with somebody local,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a little bit unnerving to box things up and ship things off to a company who knows where. Whereas if you have somebody local,
Hmm.
maybe within at least an hour drive, where you can physically go and drop your stuff off, so you see their facility and you know that your stuff is received, and have them go through and scan. And there's varying levels of companies as far as the quality they produce and the cost. So just about everybody, there's something in there for everybody.
Okay.
And if you're really budget conscious, there are some really great apps even for your phone. One I really like is called PhotoMine, and it uses your phone as kind of a scanner, and you take pictures and it'll straighten out the corners and it'll do corrections and things like that. And it's actually quite good. So there's a lot of different options out there for people depending on what you need, what your budget is, and how much time you have. Once those things are digitized, you can bring those into, say, your Mylio Photos library or wherever it is you're storing your pictures. And like, for instance, in my library, I have pictures back to the early 1900s because I've gone through and I've digitized a lot of things. My dad has digitized a lot of things. And it's really cool. Mylio has this one area called the calendar view, and takes all of your pictures based on the dates that are in your pictures, and it puts them on this calendar, and I can just go ahead and scroll back, and I can see my life in pictures. I've got all the pictures I've scanned from when I was a kid, and then I go back into pictures from my mom, pictures from my grandparents, and it's really amazing. And even cooler, I don't have to do this on my computer. I can access this from my phone or from my tablet, whether I'm sitting, across town or on the other side of the world. I have access to everything.
This is really awesome. I mean, wow, what a lovely tip you've given us all. And I'm sure all our viewers and listeners are going to follow it because, as you rightly said, you just scan the pictures, then you have it all digitalized. And that is the new age, right? I mean,
Hmm.
because over time, yes, the pictures fade, and then it takes, I don't know. There are times you may, over the years, as you said, back to 1900. So we don't even know when that era is, kind of. So over the years it becomes an old era, 100 years, and so you mean to say we can have these old pictures over the years on this digitizing and putting it on this app?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
well, this is like I don't know. I just become very quiet because I'm just thinking back. Imagine, our great ancestors and grandparents, and all our family. We can have everybody's, because we don't even know who looks like who after a point of time, because maybe either the pictures are lost or somewhere in shifting something, it just gets misplaced sometimes, and if we just put it all in one place. Now there's another thing. Now when you say about putting it all in one place, when you scan it and you put it up, upload it. But then, like, we have so many pictures today, like in my phone itself. Like, I would have Instagram photos, I would have Facebook photos, I would have. So how does one look after? Because I honestly speaking, I'll be very honest, I am so overwhelmed, and I feel little. I open my phone, I'm like lost because there are pictures, Facebook pictures, Insta pictures, this picture. There's so much happening, and then when you open even your WhatsApp pictures, which you've downloaded a few, or somebody sent you, different pictures or whatever, the videos. There is so much of it, and I look at it and I don't know. And then when you sit to delete it, you have more than I don't know how many photos, and you don't know how to delete. So how do we manage all of this? Because, like, you can hear from my voice also, I'm sure, talking about it is overwhelming. So either it's one thing, you ignore it completely, or the day your phone hangs up, you have to either, so you take some extreme steps. So how do we handle this? Yeah.
So I like to take it kind of bit by bit.
Okay.
When you get all your media into something like Mylio Photos, there are a lot of tools to help you clean things up. One of the tools that I really love is our photo dedupe tool. So it helps you find exact duplicates. So if by chance, especially those of us who've had computers for a long time, we might have tried, over time to back things up in different ways. And so this drive over here might have some pictures, and some of those pictures might also be on this drive, and they might be also here, but there might be some other stuff on each one of those things. So you bring it all into Mylio, and then Mylio can help you dedupe it and find those exact duplicates, clean those up, get those out of the way. Then there's also a tool called Photo Declutter. And this one is for helping you clean up those burst mode images. So let's say you're taking pictures of your kid's soccer game. They're running across the field. You sit there and hold down the shutter, and you get 15 photos that are all nearly identical. They're not exactly the same. What Mylio does is it groups these together based on the timestamp. And then you can go through and choose which ones you want to keep. Now there's some AI tools in there that can, find things where eyes are closed and things are blurry. I like to take a little bit more personal approach to this, and I'm a little bit more intentional about which ones I choose.
Okay.
And I'll zoom in and I'll look and see, like, okay, if it's a kid running across the field, are they smiling? Are they looking like they have a good time? Or they, did you catch them in one of those really awkward moments where their face is doing something very weird? Are their feet up off the ground? Did you capture like a really good bit of action? And if it doesn't really fit those criteria, the rest of them I can get rid of. And maybe you save one, maybe you save five, but you've then freed up that bit of space. And I like to recommend people go through and do some of this maintenance, like maybe once a month or at least once a quarter. Set a schedule, put it on your calendar, put it on your reminder list, and chip away at it a little at a time. It's never going to be done because we're always taking more pictures. So we have to I'm a perfectionist and I love checking that thing off the list. Yes. But this kind of thing is never completely done because we're always taking more pictures. Absolutely. So you have to schedule it and just kind of give yourself some grace and know that it's not going to be perfect, but you can make progress and make it better. And as you go through and do these things and get things organized, what you want to find and being able to find it is much, much easier because you've taken out some of that clutter. And maybe you've gone through and you've added face tags so you can search by that person and just find all of their pictures. Or, you have a program, Mylio uses the GPS information from our phones, and you can just look at a map and go, I know that I was at this place and I want to find all those pictures from this place. And you can just pull those up. So there's many, many tools in there that make it easy to find specific things for various people, depending on how they think and how they recall things.
Okay. I mean, you've made life simple for us. Thank you.
I do my best.
Absolutely. Believe me, because when I'm just processing all that you've shared the information, and I'm thinking in my head, okay, it's not that difficult. Okay, I can do it. So you've actually made it simple with your beautiful tips, which is, I'm sure, each and everyone are going to use these tips to be able to, actually preserve the photographs. There was one thing, if you remember, we had spoken earlier, and you had mentioned about the photograph party. Right?
Yes.
This sounded
Yes.
like okay. And I mean, it is such a unique concept, a very unique concept. Just tell us, run us through it. Tell us.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways you can approach this, and you can do it either in person. So get your family, whether it's a smaller, larger group of your family together in one place, or if everybody's scattered different regions, you can do this over something like Zoom or Teams or whatever platform you want to use. So you get something like Mylio, and then you can go ahead and pull up these pictures, especially when you're looking at those older family pictures. And maybe you're trying to preserve some of those stories. You might not know who's all in those pictures. You might recognize some people, but not know their names. Getting your family all kind of into one place to kind of put together some of those details and preserve it, you can go through and gather that information. So, as an example, what I did with my family, I took my laptop and a very, very long HDMI cable, and I went over to my grandma's house and I plugged into her TV. My mom and two of my aunts and my grandma were there, and I pulled up all of the pictures of my grandmas that I'd scanned. Now, in these pictures, a lot of them are from well before I was born. And while I could pick out certain faces and I knew who certain people were, like my aunts, when they were all little, unless they were all in the same picture, so you could see kind of the ages, I don't know who's who. So having them there, they were able to go, oh, that's me, that's me, that's her, that's her. And I can add those face tags and they would say, oh, that was taken when we lived here. And I can add that information and maybe even get a little bit of a story about it. And my grandma was sitting there and she's reminiscing through all these things and she's telling us stories. And you just get this really nice broad picture of your family. And it's a really wonderful way to connect and grow closer with your loved ones by sharing some of those memories, especially when you're the one trying to capture those things that happened before you were born and preserve them. So I would say it's a really wonderful thing, whether you can do it in person, whether you want to try to do that over, a meeting platform online. Either way, it's a lot of fun and such a great thing for a family to do together.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, just imagine the fun, like you don't know who's who. And even the
Yeah.
excitement that builds, like as the families together, the excitement that builds when they look at themselves and even they go back in time, reminiscing their old days. And you can even write a story about it. So it's actually building a legacy. You're actually creating a legacy because, like, it's going to be compiled when, why was a picture taken, the story behind it, who's who. So over the years and generations, it can be just it's like actually creating a legacy, which is so beautiful. And when you spoke about, like the party which you had, I mean the family gathering which you had, and you had your pictures and everybody's so excited, and on the big screen you can look at the pictures and go back in time and go back, remember all those old memories, and they come back to you, those moments come back to you. So I think it just touches the heart, and those are the beautiful moments which you can create for your family, for your children, for the grandchildren, for the further, the generations to come. So yes, it's actually building a legacy, which is so beautiful. I'm actually, I think I like photography.
Most people do. It's just a matter of, figuring out how you want to approach it. Not everybody has to be, buying big expensive cameras or being like really into it, but you want to capture those moments that are important to you. So that's really kind of the most important thing. Like for my fine art, yeah, I hope people appreciate it after I'm gone, but that's just kind of how I see the world. The ones that I think are going to be the most important to my family and for my legacy are going to be those family pictures, those snapshots where maybe not everybody looks perfect. Maybe people have awkward expressions on their
Yes.
face, but those are the memories and those are the people who are most important. So preserving that, I think, is just of, such value.
It is absolutely, like I can actually just feel it, the very thought, and I feel like right away starting to collect all my pictures, scan them, digitalize them, and get going to have this beautiful collection, so that the further generations that are to come, they would have something to see which we just hear. And what you hear, like, so what the stories, if I have to share with my children, or their children would share it with their children, it would be only till there. And many a times we forget, we do tend to forget, okay, yeah, which year was that? You don't always remember what was that moment, not necessarily you remember everything. So I think, going through down the memory lane, jotting it down, highlighting those points is something which will be just taken further and further into all the generations. So yes, I mean, I'm sure everybody's going to use this and get going with and that this is the next step, the next agenda for all of us. I mean, you have actually given us such lovely tips, so much of information, so much of clarity, and everything is so simple, just like ABCD. When I began this podcast, I was just thinking, okay, photography and how would I handle it and what is it all about? But you've given us such easy, actionable steps, very simple steps, and so many tips as well. So, on a closing account, what is that thing which you would like to tell our viewers and listeners about photography, life in general, anything that you would want to tell them, your message to them?
So I think probably the most important thing is just kind of realizing how important your pictures are. Those memories, those snapshots in time of your life, your story, and to pay attention to where they're stored and make sure that they're backed up. Make sure you have a copy in more than one place because things happen. And I never want to see anybody lose those precious memories. So consider backing up, consider where you can keep those stored, and just, acknowledge that those are irreplaceable and precious, and protect them.
Well, that's very touching, I must say. Because it is. See, when you said the precious memories, and the biggest thing that, yes, think of a backup. Yeah, because some things do happen which are, it's out of your control. So you do have a backup
Hmm.
plan where you have your pictures stored. And yes, pictures are memories, pictures are us, which are there today would not be there tomorrow, and but something which you leave behind for everyone to learn, gain, see, and just know who we are or who we were, if we put it that
Yes.
way as well. Oh, wow.
It gives such insight, like especially if you're talking about your family history photos, it gives you such insight as to who came before you, and a lot of insight as to why you are maybe the way you are. Those things that your grandparents may have lived through that taught your parents, that, somehow filtered down to you, go, oh, that's why we do it that way.
Yes.
Now I get it. Right or wrong, who knows?
Yes.
It helps you learn about yourself.
Absolutely. And I know, as you said, certain expressions, certain behavior, certain mannerisms, right? And then you say,
Yep.
okay, you got it from her, or you got it from him, or from that uncle, or from that aunt, or from that grandmom. So you've got it all from
Yep.
that one. Yes, actually. So where it comes from, how we pass it on from generations to generations, and yeah, with because which the world is going towards, completely towards digitalization. Absolutely. Today, you and me also, we are sitting, trying to make the world so small just across, because of digitalization. That is why we can connect. You are on another part of the world, I'm somewhere in another part, but we still can connect at the same time and have such enriching conversations, right? So,
Isn't that cool? I think it's just the neatest thing.
yeah, absolutely. So I think, keeping all of this in mind, this is the need of the hour as well. That's the next step. So I mean, as we in each area where we are taking, going towards technology and doing all of this, so I think this area also has to be looked into, because we tend to overlook it. That is the biggest thing which I believe. Because see, for us, we click pictures on the phone or whatever, but what we already have with us, we tend to overlook. Okay, okay, let's see. So but I think this podcast should drive people towards actually waking up, getting up, and taking the action and the steps to start digitizing their photographs, right? I
Yes.
think so. Should. Yes, all our viewers and listeners, I'm sure we've given you, not we, sorry, Angela has given you all the tips and all the information about how you can preserve your pictures, how you can build a legacy, take this legacy forward for your family, for your loved ones to know you maybe when you're not there. Thank you, Angela, for being on our show. It was so insightful, so great. We enjoyed it so much. Thank you for all the information you have given us. Thank you again. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in and listening to Midlife Identity. And we shall catch up soon on many, many more episodes to come. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. All right.
Thank you. Just